right, ladies and gentlemen around the Delaware Valley, welcome to the McMenamin and Wing Show here on WWDB Talk 860. Tom Wing in the house. Shout out to Roger McMenamin. We've got a fantastic guest. How are you, Tom Wing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to have Rose with us today.
It's going to be a great show. I know you're becoming quite the celebrity on social media.
It's because we use your name and likeness.
I was just going to say that, right? A funny thing is, I'm not sure I got paid for it, so I brought my lawyer here, Rose. But no, it's awesome. You're doing so incredibly well, okay? And I'm, watching. I was going to the page, and there's so much great information. Literally speaking, on topics that are so important that people who haven't gotten injured on the job and then suddenly do. All of a sudden, it's a wealth of information. You're doing an incredible job.
Oh, thank you. It's interesting because I started doing it because there's not a lot of good information on the internet when you're in a claim. There's a lot of information on how to hire a lawyer and things like that, and I think people generally understand how to do that. But the information about what you're supposed to be doing in the claim and what's likely to happen to you, that information is hard to find.
And every question that you could possibly really want to know, I know because whenever you're in a project, okay, so I've done a couple of writing projects, and you wake up in the middle of the night and write that down if you have come up with an idea. I can only imagine what you're going through because you have, you're covering, a large array of topics. Okay, and is that kind of the process where you're like, okay, I got something? I mean, I know you're an attorney, but I mean, you have, or did you create a big list?
So when I started doing it, I kind of took the 10,000-foot view and hit the main topics. And now we've gotten enough traction where people ask questions in the comments, and most of the videos are just replies to those questions. It answers the question in a broad way that's kind of generally applicable to anybody that gets hurt at work in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that makes sense. And there's so much. How many views you getting on I mean, you're getting like thousands and thousands.
Yeah, the one we did yesterday, it was over 40,000 before I walked in here today.
That's amazing.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
Holy cow. So we're going to bring our guest in just a second, but if you would, Tom, remind our listeners a little bit about what you do and what the firm does.
Sure. My name's Tom Wing. I'm a workers' comp lawyer here in Pennsylvania. We got 4 offices. All we do is workers' comp.
And now let's bring in our fantastic guest, Rose Harper. How are you, Rose?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thank you so much for having me.
It's our pleasure. We've been planning this a long time.
Also a TikTok star.
Really? No, I mean, that's awesome.
You're being way too generous with the star comment there. That's how I ended up connecting with Tom, is through his TikTok. And I agree, like the content that he's putting out there is so incredibly helpful. And so I actually reached out to Tom and I just said, I really appreciate the content you're putting out. And I initially intended to go on social media to post about what I do as a lawyer. But then I kind of got really involved with mom talk or
really?
posting about being a mom. I'm a mom of 3 kids and I'm working full time, and it's a lot. And I enjoy sharing that content and the community that I have grown on there.
That is amazing. I mean, it's it's such a new age, right? And so you have a group of individuals, who really just get it, okay? I am absolutely amazed by the influencer and how it happens, because you see a lot of people trying, and it looks like, and then it just kind of, with some individuals, it just catches on, man. I mean, and it's how long have you been doing it, Rose?
So I started posting in January, and I honestly haven't been as consistent with it as I should be, but it's really fun. I enjoy interacting with people on there and, just getting to encourage other people and, connect with other moms who are, doing the same thing I'm doing, trying to do the best for their family and take care of their kids and work. And
How old are the kids, by the way?
so I have 3 kids. Believe it or not, I have a 20-year-old.
I would not.
I don't believe it.
That I would not. So you adopted when they were 17. Amazing.
And then I also have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. So I have quite a big age gap and a lot going on in our house for sure. We stay busy.
Oh my God, I would have guessed. Forever. I do want to introduce a guest, another guest who just came in is my guest on the show, Alexis Crandall, who is with McMenamin Pain and Wellness, and we're doing some shows together. She's observing, but I told her to come in and you're not only Alexis, you're not only looking at if it's Tom Wing right there, and of course Rose Harper.
Nice to meet you.
But
Nice to
they're
meet
both
you.
not only great attorneys, but they're outstanding when it comes to social media and when it comes to TikTok, which I am absolutely, my wife is heavily involved. She loves the TikTok videos, and she's like the ultimate, kind of and even though, I mean, obviously we're a tad above the age, she's just engaged. You know what I mean? She loves, and she follows a lot of individuals, and so it's just a new medium that, Tom, you were talking about the algorithm and stuff like that. And of course I've heard of it, algorithms, of course, because I watched The Network, that movie with, that was about the owner of, Facebook. But that's about it. But all those different things. Have you just gotten a feel for it, or?
I think I like to pretend that I know. So, I mean, really the rule of thumb I followed is just engage with what the people who find your content interesting want to talk about. So when I said, I reply to comments and things like that, that's what I do. I just engage with the people that engage with the content that I'm putting out. And it's clearly relevant to them. It means something to them. And so, as long as you're a real person, I think that's the mistake a lot of people who want to be quote unquote influencers make, is they put out content for them, and we're really providing a service.
That is interesting. That's why I can't do it. I'm not a real person. People, no way, that they're going to be able to relate to somebody at my level, whatever level that is. Let's do Rose, if you would, a little bit about yourself and the practice and your pathway, okay, as an attorney, and the type of law that you practice and where you are now with the firm.
I would love to. Thank you for this opportunity to share a little bit about myself and what I do. So, I'm originally from New York. I grew up in Croton-on-Hudson. It's a really small town right on the Hudson River, 45 minutes north of the city. Big commuter town. My dad was a police officer for his career, and right in our small town. So,
Wow.
and
So when you got to be a teenager, can you call your dad up? Man, we got a problem. I got all these tickets, man.
and then I went on to college. I actually went to community college. I was already a mom at that time. And so I lived at home. I went to community college. I ended up doing well in school and got a full ride to Mercy College, which is right in Dobbs Ferry, New York. And I got half academic and half volleyball scholarship. So I was playing Division II volleyball.
Wow.
If anyone plays volleyball, you would know that that's pretty exciting. And then I ended up interning after college for my aunt. I really don't come from a family of lawyers. I come from a family of civil servants and union workers in the city, some nurses, but that's pretty much my family. So I had one aunt who was a lawyer in the town I grew up in, and I interned for her. And what I noticed when I was working for her is that people would call her with all different types of problems. She was the local attorney, and even if it wasn't something that she knew about, she would just say, give me 2 hours and I'll call you back. And she was a really important resource, especially for the elderly community where I grew up. And they would call her with any type of issue they were having. She would look up, information for them and get back to them, pretty much for free. She was just, whatever she could do to help people. And I just thought, wow, that's incredible. And I think that I might be able to help my community one day and do something similar. So that kind of planted the seed that, wow, maybe I can also go to law school and pursue this career. And I ended up doing just that. I went to Seton Hall Law, and that's right in Newark, New Jersey.
I know right where it's at.
And that was also a wonderful experience. Even with choosing law school, I got into some top 20 law schools, and it was a tough decision for me to make to go to Seton Hall, which was closer to home, which is ultimately what I chose, or pursue, a top 20 school that would pull me farther from my family.
And you said you were already a mother at the time?
I was, yes. So I had a lot to consider with that. Ultimately, I chose to stay close to home, and I'm really glad I did. I knew that I wanted to continue to practice in the New York metro area, and I ended up working after law school at multiple insurance defense firms, and I was working right alongside coworkers who graduated from Harvard and Georgetown and all of the schools that maybe I was hoping I would get into. So you end up in the same place if you work your path properly.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, we've talked to a lot of firm owners, and I can honestly say, and I mean in the tens of hundreds, who have said, especially in law and the business of law, of course, if you're going to go to Harvard or Yale or Penn, great, awesome, fantastic. But they don't always pick the Ivy Leaguers because there's a lot of qualities, a lot of tenacity, a lot of and intellect, of course. But point is, there's a lot of qualities, and there's a lot more than just going to Harvard. Not that I wouldn't suggest going to Harvard. I chose community college too over Harvard, not important, but that's a whole nother story. But the point is that look at where you're at now. So it's a great point. And Tom, I don't know if a lot of people, probably the majority of either personal injury attorneys or work comp attorneys, maybe if not the majority, 50-50, have started off on the defense side. So it's a path, and it's a path that a lot of people take. How long did you work on the defense side?
So I worked on the defense side for like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
So it was a long time, and I got some jury trial experience doing that. Again, I didn't have connections in the legal field, so I really had to just work my way up, and the opportunities that I was given were at these firms in the city. So they were willing to train me and take a chance on me, and that's how I was able to get my experience, and it was amazing. I really got to learn. First of all, if you're billing, you have to work a lot of hours a day to get that billing down. It's an art. And then also just like the marathon of what it is to litigate cases, all of that deposition experience, and also writing motions and things. So my work at the defense side for the bigger firms is incredibly helpful now on the plaintiff side, because I can already anticipate how they're evaluating the cases and what they're looking for to poke holes in my case on the plaintiff side. So it's been really helpful. And then also to have that structure of the day, because on plaintiff side, you don't bill by the hour, you work on contingency. But in order to be successful, in my opinion, on the plaintiff side, you really do need that diligence, that work ethic, and that knowledge that, okay, this task should take me X amount of time and I can get this much done in a day and I can push my case forward. Because on the plaintiff side, you're pushing your case. You have to go after the insurance company, go after the defendants, and really make sure that they understand that you are going to take this all the way to a jury unless they act and try to settle their case now.
Tom, we've talked about this before, but the beginning of your career, where did it start?
At Sonny Widener Law.
Okay.
Oh yeah. No, I didn't even bother with Harvard.
But I mean, when you got out of college, got out of law school, where did the road begin?
Roger. I've been with the same people. I've had the same paralegal since I started practicing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you knew that you wanted to go into.
I couldn't work on the dark side.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
Well, they say but they also there's also having Roger as a resource. We've talked about it many times. It's an amazing and so Roger, Tom's uncle, okay, just like your aunt, okay.
That's amazing. I love that connection. I didn't even know we had that commonality. That's wonderful.
Yeah, so he's been my law partner now for a number of years. Although I can tell you, we do have I've worked with a number of lawyers that started on the defense side. I think it's fairly common.
Oh yeah, and that knowledge of first of all, because so many people try to navigate their own cases, and I want to get into that, but I also want to get into, okay, because it's interesting because we all have a lot of family, okay, or some family that we love, but we don't make them our business partners, okay. I mean, it's not an automatic situation, and so Roger had obviously a different path.
Yeah, my mother beat him up.
Yeah, beat him up. You're hiring my son.
It's his big sister.
I realize he's in third grade, but we're prearranging this. But I find it. But what I find amazing is so now, Rose, you then what made you decide to make the switch to plaintiff?
So going into law school, I don't think I ever thought like, oh, I really want to save the insurance company, $25,000 off their policy, and that's going to be my mission in life. It was not to say it was a wonderful experience, and I met so many nice, kind people. But I went into law school because I wanted to help people. I wanted to be a resource for my community and help people when they need it. So I actually took 2 years off to have kids, my 5-year-old and my 2-year-old, my two youngest. And also at that time, it was during COVID, and my husband had taken a job opportunity out in Ohio. So we were there for 2 years. Life is very fluid. You kind of move around. So then we found ourselves back here in Pennsylvania. This was 2 years ago. So then I thought, well, if I'm going back into the practice of law, what do I really want to be doing? And I want to be helping people. So that's why I pursued my career now moving forward is going to be helping individuals who were injured in accidents.
And then you went back in, and then you obviously you worked for another firm, but now I like to talk about this because Tom, you and Roger, literally you became partners. It's McMenamin and Wing, and so you started the firm together. In other words, you didn't walk into Smith, and Smith. You guys started that practice together, okay?
Yeah.
And that's why I said, it's no given, okay, that it will go that far. But let's talk a little bit about the business of law, okay? One of because Rose, now you're a firm owner.
Yes, I am. It's so exciting.
And what's cool about it is when we started this program, at least you didn't, when we started booking this show a couple months back, that you hadn't mentioned that to us at the time. I know it was probably a surprise, but the point is, it is an exciting time, and the business of law is something that people don't. I always hear this. They don't teach the business of law in law school. Okay, it makes both of you so I admire both of you because there are some fantastic attorneys out there that are like, what, I'm not hanging the shingle, I'm going to work for somebody else. Nothing wrong with that, but what made you make that leap, Rose?
So I was working at a plaintiff's injury firm, and they were also amazing. I learned a lot there and some wonderful people. I think that I'm just ready to really take things on myself, and I really want to focus more on connecting with people on an individual basis and building a relationship with my community members. Not to say that I wasn't able to do that at the firm, but definitely when you're working at a firm, you have to have a larger caseload because you're, paying for all this staff and office space and all of these things. And I would rather just, have a smaller caseload, work with people that I really want to help out and work with them individually. So that's pretty much my goal moving forward.
And that's a great goal. Tom, when you talk about your experience with Roger when you finally made the decision to open the firm.
So it was an experience, and it's a learning experience, and it's still happening. So as we've been expanding. We've opened more offices this past year, and it is always something new. There are a lot of challenges that come with running a law practice, but I think what Rose is touching on is you kind of have a little bit of breathing room to be authentic, right? You don't have somebody breathing down your neck. You don't have some partner telling you these are the things that need to get done today. You can focus on your clients. You can get to know them, and I think you become a better lawyer for it.
And when you talk about, well, first of all, Rose, where's the practice?
So right now we have a virtual office in Basking Ridge, New Jersey. So appointments only. Don't just show up at my address. But and I'm licensed in New York and New Jersey. Taking the Pennsylvania bar in July. So Pennsylvania
Good
soon
luck.
to come. Thank you.
Now, what part of Jersey?
That's considered Somerset County, which I believe is in central Jersey. But anyone listening from New Jersey, I understand that could be inaccurate. There's a lot of beef in New Jersey. You've walked me into kind of a turf war here. I've graduated from Seton Hall Law, so I understand that some people say there is a central Jersey. Other people say there is no central Jersey. It's north-south. There's a
Really?
whole, yeah.
This is the way I would judge it.
Okay.
The people from North are Giants and Yankees and Mets fans, and the South Jersey are Philadelphia sports fans.
Actually, that might be a really maybe we need to make that movement
I
happen.
just solved that problem.
You have to put a poll out.
Right, with a flag. But this is where the line is. That's a good point.
Taylor ham versus pork roll as well.
There you go. How about that?
Absolutely.
That's a good point. I would say, shout out to Tyler, our producer. We when you talk about the business of law and making that decision to represent your cause, the type of so Tom, you obviously the firm is a strictly workers' compensation. Is it PA?
All we do is Pennsylvania workers' comp. So that's why it was so interesting to meet Rose, because Rose does New York work as well as New Jersey and has a personal injury practice. And so, as you know, and as we've talked about
There's
in other
synergy there.
programs, there are some places where those claims come together.
No question. And Rose, what type of cases typically do you represent?
So, I have experience doing like labor law, but mostly I do motor vehicle accidents, slip and falls, trip and falls, things like that.
Now, when it comes to, I guess, New Jersey, well, there's obviously workers' compensation in PA and Jersey are absolute, light years apart, especially when it comes to the medical.
Yeah.
A lot of times, what we'll talk about, and I'm sure that it's applicable to what our conversations is auto insurance and how people and being educated on the right type of the right type of insurance, what you have, what you don't.
But Joe, I have full coverage.
Exactly the question. By the way, I want to say to your producer, shout out Matt. Our producer, you do incredible work. What's the name of the company? Matt Dietz Video. Yep. Awesome job, man. Your stuff is like world class, Tom. Now, here's the thing. I do want to say something, man. I'm probably sure he's going to probably want to get a good looking guy on there, right? No question, right? Got to get Roger on. And I can't get this guy in the gym, as you can imagine here, right? When you get somehow we miss each other at 6 o'clock in the morning. But that's another story. By the way, Tom's chiseled here, and he's. How often are you at the gym?
Pretty much every day.
Every day.
Yeah, bright and early.
First of all, you're never going to put on any weight if you keep going there. You eat right?
I'm trying.
And what do you call right?
Well, if my wife's not yelling at me, I'm eating right.
What type of tasty cakes? It's a simple question.
Well, I like the crimpets.
All right. You keep doing. You keep.
Although I hear they're not made in Philadelphia anymore. They're just not as good.
When we were
at this
kids,
point.
so they have tasty cakes in Philadelphia, right? When we were kids, it used to be that the commercial was all the good things in life: milk, butter, and eggs, and sugar. It's like obviously, it's a different time, obviously, but. You talk about insurance, okay? Are you or your husband sports fans at all?
We're like a soccer family.
Okay,
usually.
well, even if you're watching soccer, anything, you see the commercials on TV about the auto insurance commercial. So now I'll be watching the game, and I'll they'll be focusing on the Rogers rate or. A lot of these commercials where they only focus on, saving money, but they never talk about, health and, like bodily harm injury. And so that's why Tom, said I have full coverage, because everybody thinks they have full coverage. What's that conversation like, and how often? I know in Philly, a lot of the personal injury attorneys sit there and they're like, I can't even tell you how many people come in. They think they have full coverage. They're badly injured, or something's, they're in a lot of pain, and they don't. They have the absolute minimum because they thought that full coverage meant full, bodily harm coverage. Talk about that as it relates to, Jersey and New York.
So this is one of the most important things that you're touching on. It's really unfortunate when I have a client come in and they think that they have this great auto insurance policy, just for me to sit down and look through it and then talk to them about areas where they really need to upgrade or change their policy. Things that they thought that they had covered are not covered at all, or covered very minimally. And what I always try to emphasize to people is that your auto insurance protects you. So you want to make sure that you have proper policy coverage, and you're paying for it every month. So you want to know what's in there. So yes, the bodily injury limit helps protect you if someone sues you, meaning you caused the accident. But really, what if somebody who has no insurance smashes into you? Or they have a $25,000 policy limit and you're a doctor and you have to get surgery and you're out of work for 2 months. So you want your auto policy to properly cover you. So you really want to look at your underinsured motorist coverage, your uninsured motorist coverage. Also, that your auto policy will cover lost wages, as well as what's called PIP, personal injury protection, your medical coverage. Like $5,000 for medical treatment is just not enough. You need more than that.
What's the minimum in New York? Because in Philly, I think it's 5,000, right?
5,000. I think New York, is like 15 or 25, and same with New Jersey.
Yeah, and so how many people when they come in think, like Tom said, that they have a comprehensive policy that covers everything, and don't really know?
Pretty much everyone that I see. At a minimum, they'll have something where, like sometimes for New Jersey, you're able to get a really affordable policy, meaning you're not paying a lot per month, but the requirement is that you're going to use your health insurance to pay for your medicals before your auto policy will cover anything. The reason that's problematic is because your health insurance is going to want to get paid back out of your settlement money. So they have a lien on your case. Whereas your auto policy, if they're covering your medical, then you don't have to pay that money back. So it's really important. So if you get into an accident with someone, they only have a $25,000 policy limit, but you had surgery and they have no other assets to go after, you're only getting the $25,000 and you have to pay back. That whole thing could go to your medical treatment if you don't have proper coverage.
What do you think the reason? Education. Okay, we talk about your social media presence, Tom, and I and a lot of it it's all educational. Like everything about it is, you're learning little clips and blurbs that are take you a lifetime. If you learn them and you unfortunately get hurt, though, that information, the education. How is that? Is that what motivates you?
Yeah, I can't do cartwheels, so
I can, but
I can give you information. That's what I can do.
Right. Well, and so educate why, in a sense, because you don't see a lot of workers' compensation. I don't think I've ever seen maybe one. On TV when it talks about business coverage. I've never seen it, but on TV you see a lot of auto. Okay, and how come you don't? You'd never hear anybody talk about uninsured or under and uninsured motorists. Why are they not having those conversations in the commercials? And why really aren't more insurance brokers educating their clients on it?
I think that people often think, oh, let me save myself $20 a month, or $50 a month on this auto policy, because you don't anticipate getting into an accident, right? Like you trust yourself, well, I'm a good driver and, I'm probably not getting into an accident anyway. I just need this to comply with the state regulations that I have to have auto insurance. But the truth is that not everyone is a good driver. And unfortunately, sometimes accidents happen because other people are negligent. And in those situations, you want to make sure that your policy properly protects you. But this is also touching on like a bigger issue because I've started doing some wills, trust, and estate work as well. I actually went through the process myself with my husband of getting our own estate plan put together because we have minor children and we really wanted to get that done for ourselves and have that peace of mind that our children are going to be properly taken care of by the people we want to raise them if we're not here. And then also that our assets are protected for them so that they have access to them moving forward. We're working so hard to provide a good life for our kids. And, I wanted to make sure that God forbid if something happens to me today or tomorrow that, they're going to be in a place where I want them to be with the people I want them to be with and have the access to the assets that I've worked hard to get for them. This concept of having proper insurance and coverage for yourself extends beyond just the auto issue. It goes to, how are you protecting your family overall? And do you have these legal documents in place and the legal relationships in place? Because through the wills, trust, and estates process, I've realized that, it's really about building that relationship. And that's what I've touched on also with the personal injury claims. But, I want to be able to help people to establish a relationship with me so that I can be their resource to go to and I can answer their questions and help them navigate.
And you're very community oriented, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, when you're talking about wills and estates, okay, it's that is a personal thing, and most of the time, people call somebody they know for that. What do I do here? What do I do there? And having that. This is not really a good joke. I mean, I remember when we started doing these shows, and I didn't know what auto insurance I had and all that. Finally, we've done a lot of these for like 7, 8, 9 years, right? And you meet different personalities. But there was at one point in there, I went home and said to my wife, "We got to go get." I got to go get full tort, limited tort, because that's what it's called. And we got to get full tort. We had a limited tort. We also had to get uninsured and uninsured. Why? Because here we are. This show right here advocates on behalf of individuals and educates, and that's our whole purpose. Now, if something happened to me and I didn't have it, wow, I believe a little bit in karma, right? But here's an interesting, and this is not a, like I said, not a good joke. I gotta upgrade it. But right now, if something were to happen to me and my wife, my brother would get my son. He's 38, by the way. That'll show you how long ago that we did our will. Which, I told him recently, I said, Uncle Brian gets you, just so you know, there's no, even though you're 38, the law says you're going with him, right? Which he was engaged up until 2 weeks ago. Would have been a little awkward. But I'm just saying how often do people not, or do they not, get the wills or at the same time update them when they should?
Wow. Thank you for touching on that, because that's another thing that I've noticed in the industry is that a lot of people will go in and maybe, or even do that themselves, like, oh, I created a will online, so I have mine done. Well, life happens and life changes, and you buy a house here, you sell a house. And if you had a trust in place, you need to make sure that the trust is properly funded, meaning that your assets went into the trust. It's not enough just to have a trust on paper. So there's a lot of things about it and that's why I kind of touch on, like, I'm hoping to build relationships with people where I'm, their go-to lawyer. So, once every couple of years we can talk, and I'm not going to charge you for the phone call, and let's just see, like, has anything changed for you? Do you want to update anything? That type of thing, because I think it's so incredibly important.
It is. Time flies, and all of a sudden, my wife read that to me not long ago, and I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Let's do this. It's a great point. We're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to come back and talk about the possibilities of when it's a potential third-party accident and how our attorneys can work together. And even throw a little medical in there. We're going to be quizzing Alexis Crandall, and it's going to get deep. It's going to get incredibly complicated. I can't tell you. Just kidding. We're going to have more from the McMenamin and Wing Show in just a minute. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the McMenamin and Wing Show here on WWDB Talk 860. Shout out to Tyler, our producer. Rose Harper's in the house. Rose Harper Law, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Listen, she's got such a soothing voice, doesn't she? I would say, I can, but I bet you it's all a setup for somebody to take you lightly, right?
You should see her in front of a jury.
That's right. That's right. In front of the defense, speaking to those Harvard men and women, right on the other side in all the suits, and they're licking their chops until Rose, walks across, shakes their hand, just like. What was that scene in the movie where the kid played that was searching for Bobby Fischer, where the little kid he offers the kid a draw, and the kid says, "Why would I give you a draw? I have more of my players on the board." And next thing you know, the kid takes it. He's like, "Because I got you," and the kid didn't take it. I'm sure Rose walks over and goes, "Listen, do this the easy way, though." Let me just do, especially when you have to go in front of that jury and that defense. Okay, we've had the women in law shows and all. As a woman and somebody who's very soft spoken, get taken for granted, like they're going to okay, this is an easy win, and then you put them in their place.
Oh, thank you for calling me soft-spoken. I'm glad my husband isn't here to tell you otherwise.
On the radio, maybe it's just because you're on the radio.
But I actually think that presenting to a jury is again about that relationship. So I'm able to communicate and connect with jury members. And
yeah, I could see that. Can't you? I mean, you got my vote. I don't care whatever.
Thank you, and help them to understand. It's all about storytelling, and help them to connect with my client and why my client deserves to be compensated for the pain and suffering that they've been caused because of this accident caused by the other guy. So,
and no, I'm listening. What a great skill. I was thinking about that, connecting with the jury, and so let's do this. Let's talk a little bit about a scenario, Tom. Somebody's driving for a living. They're delivery, whatever it is, and they get T-boned or hit from behind or whatever in the process of their job. Now you have a work injury that has a third party component, and that brings the two of you together. Let's just say it comes to your office first.
All right. Well, I'm going to change your hypothetical a little bit just so
Let's
that we can play in Pennsylvania and in New Jersey.
Okay. Okay. Great.
Guy primarily works in Pennsylvania. He goes over to the bridge into Jersey, makes one stop, gets in the accident coming back from Jersey.
Okay.
On the Jersey side.
Okay.
So typically the case is going to walk into my office first. It doesn't always happen that way, but it is routinely they have a problem with workers' comp before they have a problem with a third-party claim. So we're always issue spotting. When a case walks in the door, the first thing you're looking for is, are they treating with the right doctors? Have they spoken to an insurance company? Have they given any recorded statements? Those are a little bit dubious and can be a big problem sometimes. And then we want to see, are there any other issues or claims that they may have? In the scenario you've given, if this is a rear-end motor vehicle accident, there's a third party there. There's additional insurance money for pain and suffering and things that workers' comp doesn't cover.
Okay.
So that's when we bring in somebody like Rose to take a look at that claim.
Yeah, and let's kind of take that scenario. Somebody comes into your office. They have, obviously, they have an injury. It's due to a situation like that. Okay, Rose, you get that call. What are the first steps? Tom calls you. We had an injury. We had an accident, and he proposed the scenario. What are your first steps?
Well, first we obviously speak with the client and find out how they're doing and making sure that they're getting the proper medical treatment that they need, because that's the most important thing. Ideally, someone will recover fully and go on with their lives and not be forever impacted by their accident. That's never the goal. I kind of always tell people, I hope I never hear from you, but if you need me, I'm here. So Tom, I'm sure his office gets everyone kind of making sure they're going to the right doctors, because workers' comp, usually you need to go to a doctor that is certified, a workers' compensation doctor.
We're talking about the panel. We try to avoid the panel, but luckily we have a representative from Dr. Weinerman's office who can talk about when they can kind of intervene and give us that second opinion when we're not quite sure about that panel
Yeah,
doctor.
and Alexis, this is the kind of, whether it's an auto or a work injury, Weineman Pain and Wellness handles this type of thing?
Yeah, we handle all personal injury, motor vehicle, and workman's comp as well.
And so you mentioned, and I happen to know Dr. Weineman really well, and one of the issues that we have with Dr. Weineman is he's so thorough. It's not a joke. That at least
too thorough.
An hour and a half appointment. Like in other words, really, really comprehensive. Okay, it's not like, and so you need a situation where, like you mentioned, getting the right medical. Okay, not a and you have those areas in our world, Tom, where you have the I guess what I call them, the concentrics or whatever they are, where it's a lot of them just get paid by the insurance company. Some people don't even get to see a doctor.
Oh yeah, the
which
assembly
is a stark
line.
contrast.
Yeah.
It's the assembly line. We do our very best to get them pulled from those doctors as quickly as we can. There is a whole set of rules that the employer and the insurer has to follow in order to kind of stick an injured worker through one of these assembly line doctor's offices, and they rarely follow all of them. So usually there's a way to get them out of there and get them to a reputable physician. And
so you have this situation now. They're on workers' compensation, Rose. They're going to a good doctor, and now there's a third party. Well, how often is there a third party? In this, obviously, somebody just T-boned somebody and blew a red light. Okay. But maybe it's not always quite that simple. Once you get the call from Tom, the investigative process, they have good medical. What's your process?
So, obviously I do a thorough intake and kind of explain to my client the law in New Jersey, because their accident happened in New Jersey, so their case would be venued in New Jersey. And a part of that, there's a New Jersey verbal threshold, meaning that in order to have a successful claim that goes all the way to a jury, should you need to go that far, your case can settle at any point, even before filing a lawsuit. But if the insurance company, for whatever reason, is denying your claim, or you're medically treating for almost up onto 2 years, because there's a 2-year statute of limitations in New Jersey. So if you're still treating, we need to file the lawsuit to preserve your claim, preserve your rights, and you can keep treating. And then once you're totally done with treatment, then we assess, are we pursuing settlement? Do we want to go all the way to a jury? In New Jersey, there's court-mandated arbitration, so there's a long process in the litigation sequence. But so I kind of explained to them this verbal threshold in New Jersey. In New Jersey, you have to have a permanent injury in order to survive a summary judgment motion, get all the way to a jury. And the insurance companies know that, obviously. You have to have a permanent injury. So what does that even mean? For New Jersey, you have to have typically a treating medical doctor that is willing to provide a certification stating that based upon objective medical evidence that you have a permanent injury. So objective medical evidence means things like MRIs, x-rays, nerve damage testing. Usually you have consistent comprehensive medical treatment from the date of the accident or soon thereafter, because you want that closeness in time to the accident with your objective medical evidence. And the permanency aspect would be, because say, for example, you have a shoulder tear, but you got surgery on it. Well, hopefully the surgery helped you, but sometimes it doesn't repair you 100%. You have a loss of range of motion that not only currently is not totally healed to 100%, but will not heal to 100%, even with further medical treatment. So that's really what the doctor is attesting to in the certification. And that's not to say, like, say, for example, someone gets into a car accident and they have some soft tissue injuries, whiplash, they treat with PT for 3 months, and they're like, you know what, I'm really okay. The insurance company will give you some money for that because you did have to go to a medical doctor for 3 months. But, that's not a case that will survive a threshold motion if you litigate it.
Now, how does that impact your situation, Tom? In other words, it has to be permanency. Does that?
So for us, as I'm listening to Rose talking, I mean, the interests in workers' comp and in a personal injury claim are related, but they're not the same. So we're more concerned with making sure they get the right medical treatment, getting them to the point where they can return to some type of gainful employment, and making sure they can pay their bills while they do that. So usually our part of the claim happens first. And so as their medical treatment starts to wrap up or the workers' comp claim settles, something like that, that's when we're really bringing Rose in to kind of hit the ground running. And as Rose mentioned, there's that 2-year statute in New Jersey. And usually a workers' comp claim that's not super serious, somebody's going to be on workers' comp forever or something like that, is usually wrapped up before that 2-year mark. And so at that point, workers' comp gets a lien. They kind of step into the shoes of the injured worker in that third-party claim. And so it's ideal to have that whole claim wrapped up before you really begin going into suit on that third-party claim.
Communications are always, at a premium, especially when it comes to clients. And obviously, everybody on this panel has puts a premium on it when it comes to the clients. But how important is it? Obviously, when you're dealing with the lawyers, you get a work injury that has a third party component, and you're going to refer it out because you do the work injury. Talk about the importance of the communication between the lawyers and how important it is in regards to the client themselves.
It's really important. So clients have expectations, right? If they see your ad or they see your video, they expect you're going to communicate with them. And so the lawyers that you work with need to be just as diligent as you are. I mean, I'd say that's number one. And number two, when you're communicating with that other lawyer, you guys need to understand what the issues are in a claim or in a practice area that you may not work in, because I don't want to be doing something in a workers' comp claim that could potentially damage that third-party claim. I've given a number of very sad second opinions where an injured worker has called my office after they've settled a workers' comp claim thinking, oh, I might have a third-party claim. And I look at the settlement documents and they've given it away.
Oh, wow. And I talk about that from your standpoint, Rose. First of all, the need for counsel as early as possible so somebody doesn't make that mistake.
Absolutely. Actually, this is one of the things that I really appreciated about the videos that you're putting out, Tom, is a lot of times you're touching on this aspect of someone who gets into a workers' comp accident, so a work injury, but they really love their job. They love their manager. They want to return to work. So they think, oh, this will be fine. They're going to, get me medical treatment and I don't need a lawyer. But they do need a lawyer because the people who are handling the workers' compensation medical claim are not your manager. They're not your HR department. It's an insurance company with a claim adjuster and their lawyer doing what's best for them. And that's not to say that they're not going to help you, but you should have someone at least advocating for you. And it doesn't have to always be contentious or adversarial. And it can just be making sure you understand your rights and looking out for these other claims that you have. So I think that that's really important that you're putting that content out to let people know that they have the right to seek counsel, and they should, because the litigation process can be tricky and complicated. And just like what you're touching on, someone releasing their rights. I'm also seeing that happen on the third party side. So there's an accident that occurs. The insurance companies are notified right away, typically from both vehicles. And some of the insurance companies, what they're doing to try to save money off their policy, they'll just offer somebody right away $1,000, $2,000 to settle their bodily injury claim the moment the accident happens to avoid them going for medical treatment. They don't even know the extent of their injuries yet.
I can't even believe that's ethical.
Oh, they do it all the time. They'll pick up the phone, they'll call you, say, oh, you missed 2 days of work and you had a copay at the emergency room. We'll take care of that for you. And they send a general release that releases the whole claim for like $1,200.
That is why it's so important. I'm going to talk about the issue. A lot of people, well, I don't want to get litigious. Wait a second. You're educating yourself on your rights. A lot of times people don't, especially in a situation like this. They may not know how injured they are. And it brings up a question. I'm going to ask you real quick. Talk about any out-of-pocket costs for any of your services. Somebody comes in for a consultation.
No, absolutely not. For personal injury, I pay everything up front. I fight for you for your claim. And when I win money, then I get a percentage of that. But if I don't, for some reason, if a jury says, no, we don't believe you or your doctors, and we're not giving you anything, well, then you don't owe me anything.
And that's the contingency fee agreement, Tom?
Yeah. Exactly the same.
So, and by the way, Alexis, when it comes to when it comes to a work injury or personal injury, any out-of-pocket costs for Dr. Weineman's services when somebody walks through that door?
No, absolutely not. They don't have to pay a single thing.
And so, having said that, I thank the lawyers for being able to put together a network where, because it's not easy going. You can't always. In fact, I would probably say, how rare is it that you can actually go into your family doctor who may have been changing, been there when you were a kid. Okay, family doctors, are often not willing to even touch a medical legal case. Talk about that, Tom, in the world of workers' comp and PI.
It happens all the time. And it's one of the big ways a case will end up walking in the door. Somebody gets hurt on a Friday, goes into their family doctor Monday or Tuesday, and they get to the front desk and they say the words work injury, and they say, oh, we can't see you.
Mm-hmm.
You can't see me. That must be shocking for somebody, right? I mean...
Yeah, and they call me and say, well, I don't know what to do. I don't want to go to this assembly line doctor down the street because... my buddy who got hurt ended up needing surgery and they really messed him up.
Right.
And so I get a phone call.
And Rose, talk about that in your world, same thing.
So it's a little bit different, well, at least in New York and New Jersey. So like in New Jersey, for work accidents, you actually have to go to a workers' comp doctor. So that's why the PCP would tell that to you. You're supposed to go.
Right.
And
in New
then
Jersey.
With regard to personal injury, the doctors will see you, but if a doctor doesn't know how the PIP auto insurance works and they don't know how to bill it properly, that can create a lot of problems. So you really want to go to a doctor who understands that process. Like in New Jersey, you have to get pre-certifications for the medical treatment that you're doing. In New York, they don't require that. So it's like a little bit different. It really varies from state to state. So getting someone knowledgeable in your state is really important.
Well, the reason I say that is try to find a doctor like that, okay, on your own. That's why, I mean, like literally, if it wasn't, there had to be a time, okay, when all of us were not professionals yet, okay, where there wasn't a network of medical professionals that would even take a look at this. How often have people walked into both of your offices and been confused about that? We're going, I can't find a doctor that will even look at me.
I've run into it. I still run into it. Somebody will pick up the phone and call me 3 months into a claim. They were sent to the emergency room when the accident happened. They were told they had to be on the panel for the first 90 days.
Yeah.
And
they're giving legal advice, in the medical office, right?
Right, of course. But they don't actually give them a list of doctors. So they see no one for 3 months.
Yeah.
And then they get a denial in the mail. They just deny the claim for failure to get medical treatment, which is not a basis for a denial in Pennsylvania anyway. But then they pick up the phone and call me and say, I don't know what to do.
And I'm assuming that happens at Dr. Weineman's office where you run into people who have not been able to get quality medical treatment and who will even look at their claim. I wonder, I mean, yes, does that happen on a regular basis?
Yeah, and we also see a lot of people that come in that are already treating and they'll find out that their workers' comp case is denied, and then they just think that they need to stop treating because they think that it's denied and they're not going to get a chance to go further with their case.
And you guys don't throw them out on the curb?
No. I think that's the miscommunication that they don't understand. They're not understanding.
Well, and so the medical is compliance also. I mean, a major part of the process. Literally staying in touch with the doctor to make sure somebody gets not depressed and says, I can't go to the doctors anymore, even though I can't pick my shoulder up.
Right. And there's also a lot of cultural differences with that. Some people don't want to go to a doctor for many reasons. So really educating my clients on the fact that, the goal is never for anyone to have a permanent injury, and you really need the medical treatment to get better. So you have to actually go to the doctor. So
let's do this. We only have a minute left. Rose, contact information at the firm if anybody wants your services.
Oh, sure. Rose Harper Law Firm at gmail.com. But you can find me on social media, NY Lady Lawyer. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and then also LinkedIn, Rose Harper. I'd love to connect.
Fantastic. Alexis, contact information at Weineman?
Yeah, you can reach me, email acrandall@Weinerman Pain and Wellness, and my phone number is 484-356-6666.
Tom Wing?
Tom Wing from McMenamin and Wing. We've got 4 convenient offices in Pennsylvania. You can find me on TikTok at THWESQ.
Fantastic. Listen, I want to thank everybody for tuning into the McMenamin and Wing Show here on WWDB Talk 860. Of course, we want to thank Rose Harper for being our guest today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was such
so
a great
fun.
opportunity. Yeah, it was really fun.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alexis Crandall, for stopping by.
Thank you as well.
And of course, our host, Tom Wing, and shout out to Roger at McMenamin for another fantastic broadcast.
They did a great job today.
Absolutely. And of course, Tyler, our producer, and the name of the production company is Matt Dietz Video. Fantastic. Shout out to everybody out there listening, and want to thank everybody for tuning in. And again, Tyler, our producer. On behalf of everybody on the panel, I'm Joe Doherty. Thanks for listening, everybody.